I can't tell you how many times I've returned from a photo trip, get my images on a computer only to feel completely underwhelmed by the results. What I saw and what I photographed out in the landscape was nothing like what I was looking at on the computer. The photos lacked the feeling that I had, they were flat and a bit uninspiring, but over time I found a few common issues that I ran into over and over. Now these were mistakes that once I identified, the solutions I found were so simple, but it made all of the difference in my photography. As landscape photographers, we are beholden to one element, one that can make all of the difference in an image. But if you can't identify this, your art's gonna suffer, and that is taking photos in bad light. Now, what does that mean? Because it might not be what you think. Now, bad light can mean many things depending on the location, your subject, and your own personal style. For most subjects, that sweet golden hour around sunrise and sunset makes the most impact. That soft golden light from the low sun being diffused from atmospheric particles is ideal for landscape photography. I don't care how good your composition is. If you don't have the light to complement your subject, you're not going to make an impact with your photos. But golden hour isn't the only good light. Good light means it's light that supports your subject. This could be overcast skies or low clouds and fog. These types of softer light can be great for woodland photography or black and white images. Now, just before and just after storms are some of the most dramatic skies I've ever seen. From dark, ominous clouds to insanely colorful skies, this type of light can really get the adrenaline pumping. Now, even the middle of the daylight can work for certain types of subjects. Reflected light on canyon walls or really high contrast smaller scenes can benefit from harsh light. Okay, now we have good light. What's next? Looking at some of my old photos, I had one question. What was my subject? A landscape looks nice, but I included just about everything that I was seeing. Maybe I had nice light at sunrise or sunset, but I had no idea why I was taking the photo. See, this photo here, it looks nice. The light was good, and I was up on a lookout that was absolutely spectacular. But a nice view doesn't always mean a good photograph. Take this viewpoint. Everything has a purpose. This leading line, this ridge on the low setting sun, just lighting up the ridge leads you right into the mountain in the background. So you have good light, a strong subject, and a foreground element that complements the subject. It's clear to myself and it's clear to a viewer what I'm photographing and what story I'm trying to tell. A subject can also be abstract. It doesn't have to be an object like a mountain or a tree. Shapes and colors like this Icelandic river I shot from a helicopter can be a subject on its own, if it's interesting enough. This next mistake is a really common one as well. Not changing your perspective. Keeping your camera set at eye level. That's how we see the world every day. We know what it looks like. Don't be afraid to make a change in elevation or camera angle. Now, sometimes this means getting down and low and really close to your subject with a wide angle lens. Now, don't get too close to your foreground or you're going to be pulling choya out of your leg and socks when you get home. But lowering your tripod even just a foot or two and angling your camera up can make all of the difference. Now, it's not only about up or down to change your perspective, but just moving a few feet to the right or to the left can change the relationship between elements in the scene. This tree on the left was really interesting and had some beautiful color. But instead of just photographing that tree straight on, I took about 5 or 6 steps to the right, and these 3 trees had some separation now, and they created more depth in the image. What about when we get to a location and we get the landscape photographer's worst nightmare? Clear skies. Now, we've all had it happen. We get to a location and we don't have clouds or whatever conditions you were hoping for. You just don't get it. So what do? You take some advice from Bruce Lee. Be like water. Adapt. Be flexible with your mindset. Don't go looking for one specific set of conditions or one image in mind that requires colorful skies or fog. Maybe instead of a wide angle lens that you were hoping to use, Get out the telephoto lens, cut out the sky completely, and focus on showing little vignettes of the grand landscape. Now the fog had cleared in this cypress swamp, but this white egret fishing in the shallows below the trees made for a really nice moment. It tells a different story than that eerie fog that we had earlier. Now if you still want colorful skies but you don't have any clouds, just get to your location a little earlier or stay a little later. The sky with the belt of Venus can make for really nice images. Now this mistake I was definitely guilty of early on. I first bought a Nikon D3300 for my very first camera that came with a kit lens. I learned to shoot manual mode, a few composition basics, and then I thought after only a couple of months that a new camera could take my images to the next level. So I went out and bought a Nikon D810, a 36 megapixel camera. I didn't shoot any differently than I did with a cheaper camera. I took the same exact photos with the same techniques. I didn't really need an upgrade. The camera wasn't holding me back in any way. Instead of buying a new camera, I could have invested in a trip to Iceland or Hawaii or somewhere and spent money on an experience rather than gear that didn't change anything. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying new gear every year if you have the money and you just love new technology. But don't buy gear and expect that it's going to make you a better photographer. Buy the gear that you can afford, master it, invest in experiences, and upgrade when you feel like maybe your equipment is holding you back. Maybe you like doing time lapses and want that feature in a camera, or you have to exposure blend a lot, so you need a camera with better dynamic range or a full frame camera that handles noise much better for astrophotography. As you evolve as a photographer, your gear can follow, not the other way around. I know that's 5 mistakes that we can fix, but I need to add one more thing. Don't forget to look up from the back of the camera. Remember, you're there to experience, not just see the world through your viewfinder. You're gonna have fun, make photos and memories. Now, one of my favorite types of photography is long exposure seascapes. Click here to see my entire workflow and thought process behind my seascape images, and I'll see you in the next video.